This is a podcast by first responders, for first responders, and those who work in high-stress environments. We are going to start our leadership series today with my guest, James, who's a battalion chief in a nearby fire agency. Now, James and I are good friends. We talk a lot, and we share a passion for this leadership concept and how do we define it and what are the roles that we can take to be more effective and better leaders, especially in an environment where we make difficult decisions in high stress, fast-paced, with often imperfect information. And we work with people who are purpose-driven in what they do, but it takes a lot out of them. So how do we keep them engaged? How do we keep them motivated? How do we keep them excited to come to work every day? So today we're going to explore our foundations of leadership, what we believe are good leaders to build the base on. We're going to talk about caring about people, how you cannot be successful in this environment if you don't truly care about your people. If you don't, they will know, and you'll never build the trust and do the things that you want to do. James has a concept of starting from yes as opposed to starting from no, which is really powerful. I want you to listen to that. And also knowing your why as a leader. It seems obvious, it seems like everybody does that, but it really is lacking in a lot of places. And lastly, I explore this concept of bottom-up leadership, which can create an opportunity instead of a frustration if you change your mindset and take advantage of it. So tune in, listen. Thanks for stopping by. Okay, James, thanks for being here. Battalion chief of the local fire department. We've been friends for a while, known each other. I think one of the passions we share for our agencies is talking about leadership, figuring out this whole leadership concept, especially within the crazy environment that we work in, which is, first responders. There's kind of a paramilitary element to it, with the rank and file and structure, and trying to figure out how we best lead people through jobs that have a lot of stress. Potentially a lot of trauma. There's physical, mental, emotional stress, which I think creates a different leadership environment that maybe as we learn about wellness, we need to figure out how we can lead differently than the way we've always done it. And you and I have talked about that for a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you're here. Thanks for being here. We're going to do probably a series of these podcasts because we have so much to talk about.
Yeah.
We're pretty passionate about this stuff and teaching other people. But today I want to talk about kind of our foundations, our cores in leadership. And we can expand on that later as well, but really what it means and how it applies to what we do and how we do it. So I don't want to take too much away from you. So Go ahead and explain kind of your background or whatever you want us to know about that, and then we'll get into like our foundations of leadership.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah.
And I would say like I'm a little bit of like a leadership nerd. Like I like it. I read about it. I watch as much as I can take in. I like going to classes and hearing people's perspectives. And the thing that I've sort of developed in my own thought process, and even talking with you, as similar as we are, leadership isn't one size fits all. And I've developed this thought and belief through many aspects of my life, whether we're talking about just having a family and being a dad and raising kids, or coaching sports teams, youth sports teams. I've coached high school level athletics, and then I've spent almost 20 years in fire and EMS, and started at the ground and worked my way up. And probably one of the most important things that I value in my leadership style, and it's been a work in progress for all 20 years, is just fundamentally everything we do in public safety is about people. When you're a brand new cop or you're a brand new EMT firefighter, it's about the people in the community that we're serving. And we're doing the best that we can to provide the knowledge, skills, and abilities that we've learned in academy to solve people's problems. And as you grow through the ranks, that really starts to develop into the people that are out doing those things on the street. And my job now is about serving the people who are in the public solving problems. Mm-hmm. And if I can't give them the tools and I can't give them the support that they need, then how good as an organization are we? And how good as a team are we at functioning in high stress environments?
Exactly.
And so, I can't think of a more important aspect of leading than just fundamentally caring about people, which frankly is why we're here to begin with in our careers.
Yep.
So it's sort of a natural fit.
It's interesting because you and I are both about the same years of service. We've promoted. We've gone to different things. We've gone through a lot. We've had a lot of success in our careers in different ways. But you're right. As we move and kind of mature, we've learned so much. We get passionate about the people around us that now we want to serve those people And like my measure of success is how they're doing with their job. Do they have the skills, the abilities, the training, the support that they need to act autonomously, really? So they can feel empowered to do their job. And a lot of that I just didn't feel like I had in the beginning because it was so different back then. It was so structured and kind of militant,
Yeah.
It's not your place, so you're not going to worry about it. Or that's how I went through it. You're going to go through it too. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's a different way about this because, and we've talked a lot about this. Like my fundamental foundation on one of the two is caring about people, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it's like, this wishy-washy or kumbaya thing. It's, do I legitimately care about that person enough to train them, to get them the tools that they need, to monitor them, to know them, know what their strengths are, know what their weaknesses, how they fit into the team. But it also means, do I care enough to keep them accountable when they screw up?
Yeah.
Right? It doesn't mean you're my best friend now. I'm going to cover for you. It means, no, you screwed up.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this.
We've talked a little bit about the accountability even ahead of the podcast today, and how difficult that can be, especially when a lot of the people that you start supervising right away were your peers in your previous role. And you sort of have to develop this boundary early on. Part of that is just setting very clear expectations and two, confronting that piece head on. So I think a lot of times I've had those conversations with people who are still my friend that I supervise, but it's been very clear, like, work is work and expectations are expectations, and I'm going to treat everybody the same. But when you talk about caring about people and accountability, I think back to a supervisor I had early in my career at my current agency, and it was something as simple as folks who didn't want to wear reflective traffic vests on car accidents, which seems like such a silly thing to get hung up on and not want to do. But he broke it down exactly how you said it. It's like, I care about you, and what I don't want to do is have to go to your spouse or your mother or your children and tell them you're no longer here because you didn't want to wear the piece of safety equipment that we provided you, and I didn't care enough to make you wear it.
Right.
And he was very frank. Like, this is more about respecting me than it is about a rule.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what it boils down to. It's a very simple concept, or a simple example, I should say, of the broader concept of, do you care enough about your people to hold them accountable?
Yeah. Yep. And, caring about people goes beyond just that, too. It's also, do you care about them enough to make yourself the best you can be, right? Can you learn more about leadership? Can you learn more about them? Can you be very direct or specific, or have a plan on how you want to do and accomplish the things you want to do, and share that with them? And the other thing that you and I have talked about is, when a leader doesn't care about you. Mm-hmm. And it affects your trust. It affects your merit. Likewise, when you have someone that cares about you, you're probably willing to do a lot for them because they'd do a lot for you.
Yeah.
It's very reciprocal. And what drives me nuts sometimes, I hear people struggling, and I've tried to talk to them, and I've said, you got to care about people. And I hear, well, I care about them so much. Look at all I'm doing for them. And I'm doing these things that they don't want to do. I'm going to these meetings, or I'm, negotiating policy or whatever. And I just have to say to them, like, well, I get that. That's your way of saying you care, but A, you might have a marketing problem because we don't know that. You're not sharing that, right?
Yeah.
But B, is that the way they need to be cared about? Yeah. Like the old 5 love languages book, right? Like, what's your love language? And part of that is knowing people, and to me, like, this person needs a little bit more accolade than the other person, or whatever. But caring about people.
The 5 love languages is a funny way to put it, but the reality of it is, you're absolutely right. I have folks on my crew right now that I can be very direct with and just tell them, you're not doing it the way that you're supposed to do it. You're not doing the thing that we've talked about, or this is what I need from you. I have people on my crew that if I approached them that way, we would be scheduling a therapy session,
right?
And that's okay. It's incumbent on me to understand those people, and the people I have on my crew that I know need things delivered in a different way, I deliver it to them in a different way that they respond to, and that isn't the employee being lazy. That's just who they are. This idea of I'm in charge of you, therefore you'll do everything my way or no way doesn't work unless you want to be frustrated a lot and being patient and understanding the people that you're supervising
Yep.
is so crucial because, man, it's made my job easy.
Yeah.
And part of it is I have really good folks on my crew, and I give them most of the credit for that because I don't have to hold them accountable often. But when I do, I get the response that I'm looking for because I know how they need it delivered. I know how we can come up with a plan for success.
Yeah, and I think they enjoy their job more. I look at my job as supervisor as, I want to empower you to make the right decisions. You can have the autonomy to do this job the way you want to do it, because everybody has a different style. And I think you're spot on. I've worked with those people that are like, this is how I do it, therefore this is how you do it. But I don't like doing it that way. That's not me. That's not my authentic solution, right? And so, when I'm out on a scene with somebody, especially the new guys, I'll tell them very specifically, just like this. I say, look, here is the window of acceptable outcomes. Outside that window is not acceptable, which would be like against law, policy, training, violating somebody's rights, whatever. That's absolutely not acceptable, right? But inside that window, there's a number of different solutions. And what I'm not going to do is say, this is how I do it, this is how we're going to do it. So I have to keep an open mind when I arrive on scene and be like, what do you need? My job is to keep you in that window. And if you want to do it this way, even though I might disagree, that's not how I would have handled it. It's within the window of acceptable outcomes.
Yeah.
Now I might give you some, experience advice, right?
Yeah.
Like, hey, I've done it that way before.
Been
Just
down that
keep
road.
in mind, this might happen, this could happen, or whatever. But make your decision. And if you truly are, not sure what to do or whatever, sure, that's my job to say, okay, we're going to solve this.
Yeah.
But I want to give them the autonomy to do that the way they want to do it, so they not only enjoy their job, but they're not also dependent on me to make a decision, which is just, it bottlenecks everything.
That's growth.
I'm getting a call.
Too.
Yeah.
That allows them to grow.
Yeah.
And when we talk about like succession planning and empowering, doing business that way and allowing our people to make decisions and find the outcome on their own, that's what builds them.
Yeah.
That's why we got to where we got, or in some cases, how we got to where we got, or how I'm comfortable making decisions is because at some point I made them and the outcome was either successful or not, and now I'm either going to do it the same or not the same next time. Well, one of the things that I think is really dynamic for our profession that we don't see at City Hall or we don't see in state government a lot is we lead in a very dynamic situation because you'll sit in a class about leadership and they'll walk you through like autocratic, democratic decision making, and these are all the different leadership styles. And the reality of it is, in our line of work, we're constantly utilizing all of those. On an incident scene, we often don't have time to have a democratic decision making, and we have policy and guidelines and we have rank for a reason, and that's what drives those decisions. But when we're back at the station, we get to allow ourselves to include our crew and have those discussions, whether it's an after action review on the incident and they have ideas about how we could have done it different, or if it's as simple as what are we going to eat for dinner tonight, or how are we going to store equipment on a fire engine. Like, those are all decisions that we can collectively make and take time because time's on our side.
Right.
And that,
and
again,
consequence is low.
Right. And that lends its hand to caring about people. Like, everyone has feelings, everyone has ideas, everyone wants to feel included. And when they're not feeling included, then they don't feel like they're part of the team. Yeah, and that's what we are. We're a team.
Agreed. Yep, and that leads me to kind of a different topic. Maybe we'll do a different podcast on this, but in those times where it's dynamic, it's fast, we also have imperfect information, and we have to get used to making critical decisions with imperfect information, and that does suck at times. But at some point, leadership does need to be centralized. You can't decentralize leadership, or you just get that on scene where everybody wants to give their input, and it's like, we don't have time for that. I got to own it at that point, and I hear you, but this is the decision we're making. So, and that's something that would be good to expand on, because a lot of people don't understand that. They try to flatten the organizational curve, or they try to decentralize leadership, and that's fine to make people feel included, but at the end of the day, in a dynamic situation, that doesn't always work in our role.
Yeah, no, not at all. Yeah, and we have to have the respect of the people to know, hey, this is the time. The switch has been flipped, and part of that's expectations. When we're going to a call on a fire engine, I don't need two other people telling me what we should or shouldn't be doing, because it's go time, and we all have our roles. And when it's go time, I want you to perfect your role. And when go time's over, we can go back and have those discussions about, hey, what if we would have done this? Or what if we would have done that? And then I can explain why I didn't do those things.
Yes.
Because I probably have that experience somewhere in my mind that told me that's not a good idea.
Right. Some experience back there.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about own your role, that's a huge one for me. Own your role, and it's okay. And with that, you have the autonomy to do your role. I'm not going to get in your way. I'm not going to micromanage
100%.
you unless I have to just correct the course. But it builds confidence in people. I think it builds trust, which we've talked about. But own your role is huge.
I know one of the struggles I had right out of the gate when I promoted to battalion chief was in my previous roles, and I still am a certified paramedic. And you know, I spent a lot of my time early in my career mentoring new paramedics as we were onboarding. And as a battalion chief, I find myself on not all calls with paramedics, but oftentimes the most critical ones. And it was really difficult early on to say, that's not my role anymore, and step back. And unless we were going to put someone in harm's way or break a policy or do something that was like, that's going to be in the newspaper and I need to stop it from getting there, I really needed to allow those medics to grow in their roles.
Yeah.
Because there's someone else there now mentoring new paramedics, and they need to grow in that role. That's not my role anymore. And man, it was hard. It was really hard to let that go. But I'd like to think that I did a pretty good job at it. But I do know I wasn't perfect either.
Oh yeah, I've screwed up many times. Yeah. But you know, I took a class to get certified as an assistant team leader for our TAC team, which is kind of like an element leader if you're not familiar with that. But our job was to carry out the mission protocol, and you know the objective of the mission. And of course, we have all these plans and how we're going to do it, the contingencies if it goes wrong. But one of the things I say is I've never had one go exactly as planned. There's always a curveball, right? Yeah. So you need that element leader, that someone who's going to take that responsibility, see it, and make the right call. And there's a guy named Bill Blower, if you haven't seen him. He's a great guy. Bill, thanks for your class. But he convinced me, in his company's called Tap Rack Tactical. He convinced me that exactly that. Own your role, just like Jocko, right? Own your role, but your role's different when you move up, because now you train them, have them autonomy, the ability to do what they need to do. And if you get sucked in, then we've lost the ability to do what we do. And there's times where that has happened, especially in training, where I might get sucked into a room because I'm the next one up. But the real protocol for that is to send the next one in, because now I can look big picture of where we're going. And it's true. As much as we want to say we've built these awesome teams and they know what to do, there is an expectation that at some point they want to know, are we on track?
Yeah.
Right? Because they're focused on their role.
Yeah. And man, when things are hard and stressful, it's really easy to resort back to what we're good at, right?
Oh, for sure.
What we were good at.
Yep.
And it's easy to want to just say, well, I can take care of a sick person. Yeah. I'm going to do that because this decision feels real heavy right now over here. And we can't. That's how we learn and grow in our roles. And everything went fine with the transition and things like that, but it sure is difficult when you're moving up.
I remember
to leave what you know behind.
Yes, I remember the very first time, because a lot of times I want to do it because I want to help, or I want to save them from doing it, or I know what they're about to experience, like I got it, because I don't want you to go through that. I remember the very first time I had to make that call on a really dangerous deployment, and I knew the right thing to do was to send my guy in there. He signed up for it. He knew the risk, everything, right? But I also know his family, his kids, right? And I'm sending him in knowing that that's a really dangerous thing.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I've been that guy too, and I know what he's going to feel. And there was so much of me that was like, I got it. I'll go up and I'll check it, right? And I knew, like, nope, I've got to let him do that. And I'll tell you, the first time I did it, I got more and more comfortable with it, but I was terrified.
Yeah.
I mean, I was worried about him. It scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
And it worked out, of course. Everybody is good at their jobs, but it's like, man, part of me as a servant leader, just like, I got it.
Yeah, yeah.
But it falls apart when you do that.
Yeah, yeah. And it turns out, like, that's their role. They came to work prepared to carry that out. And you're absolutely right when you say, like, as soon as we deviate from that, things aren't going to go right. Nope. As soon as I get out of my command rig and try to start dabbling in firefighting work again, I'm capable, but it isn't going to go right because I'm supposed to be in my rig having some sort of accountability and command of the situation.
Where the hell's BC?
Yeah, absolutely right. And we see that across the industry. Not necessarily. I'd like to think that our region's getting much better than other places in the country. I guess to toot our horn in our region, but that's why freelancing doesn't work, because you're not performing your task, your role, when you're just walking around doing whatever you think needs to be done to help out. But the thing is, it's like being a dad, right? Like you're in the yard doing a project, and you want your kid to know how to do this thing, and it's like sometimes I lose patience. I'm like, I actually just want to be done with this project today, or I know if I let you do the whole project, it's not going to be perfect, and that's going to bother me. And so I relate it back so much of leadership. I think sometimes I relate back to being a dad. I relate it back to like, yeah, okay, well, my son's 12, almost 13 years old. I need to just let go. He needs to know how to mow a yard, and if he misses a spot, he won't next time.
Right.
But dang it, it's hard.
It's so hard.
Because I want to be like, I'm just going to do it because I can do it right.
Yeah.
And instead of empowering you, young man, to learn how to use a lawnmower and do it right, I'm just going to do it for you. And I feel like there's like this line that we could draw between that and supervising people at work, and it's a very simplistic way of looking at it, but in the end it's very similar, a lot less risky, of course, but yeah.
I've got a guy right now I'm trying to mentor through how to get something done through our administrative process. Great idea. I want him to own the role, and he gives me the, is this it, like this? Nope. I got to go back and here's how you need to format that so they'll accept it. And it's tough for him, and it's really hard for me because I'm just like, I can fix this.
Yeah, we could be done
and send it through. But I'm not going to be there much longer. The light of retirement is pretty close for me. Several years out, but it's close enough that I'm like, hey, I got to really think about what's behind me now. Yeah. And I'm not doing him any favors by not teaching him how to do this.
And the reality is he's capable. Likely 100%. Capable.
It's just new.
He just doesn't know. He's never done it before. Yeah, it's hard.
Talk to me about Simon Sinek. You talked about how much you love his quote.
Yeah. So as I talked earlier, I like to get into any of it, any leadership, but Simon's been a guy where I feel like I've really identified with a lot of his material, and one of the quotes that's just resonated with me for a long time is, it's leading isn't about being in charge. It's about taking care of the people in your charge. It's about exactly what we've been talking about for the last 15, 20 minutes here. Is like, it's about the people. It's about supporting the people to go carry out their mission. And yeah, I'm in charge, but at the end of the day, nothing gets done without the people that are under me doing the work.
Right. And
my favorite thing to do in the morning is to check in with them. What do you need today? They like to ask me, what do I need from them today? And there's days where there's needs, but oftentimes what I want is, what do you need from me to be ready? Yesterday was a great example. I come into work. I'd been off for a handful of days, but I'd say about 2/3 of my crew yesterday, of about the 13 people that were working yesterday, about 2/3 of them were carryover from the night before. So they'd worked 24 hours already. It was 90 degrees the day before, and now it's Sunday. It's going to be 90 degrees again, and all of them had been up all night. And for me, at that point in time, at 8 in the morning, as I'm talking with them, getting a feel for how the day went before, it was very apparent to me the need was rest and recovery.
Yeah.
It wasn't, hey, we're going to the drill ground. Hey, we're going to go do this thing. It was about, hey, we're supposed to be at a pub ed thing for 2 hours. I've gone down. I've met with the individual running the thing. He's good if we can come for an hour. He's grateful for anything. Let's go for 1 hour. Let's get back in the air conditioning, cool down, and be ready. Because at the end of the day, our one mission every time we come to work is to be prepared to respond.
Yeah.
And if we're not taking care of our people and making sure they're prepared to respond, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
And so that quote's always just really resonated with me. It's not about the power.
Yeah.
It's not about
prestige.
The rank. Like, I have shiny bugles on my uniform, but it's, for me, it's a privilege to work for the folks on my crew. Yeah. That's how I look at it.
Yeah.
And And really, it is a privilege. And when I was on a medic unit, it was a privilege to serve the public. It still is in my role, a privilege to serve the public. It's just not as much of my role anymore.
Right.
My role is much more the people that are serving the public.
Yeah, and that's the perspective I think we both share. It's the people. I'm fortunate, and I think you feel the same way or similar, is that I've gotten to do all the things I dreamed about doing as a kid when I wanted
100%.
This job. You know?
Yeah.
And I left it on the field. I've got nothing left. I'll still do it. I still enjoy it, but my focus has changed now to the people.
Yeah.
And one of the things I notice about promotion a lot of times is once you go high enough, there seems to be this focus shift away from the people and more towards, like in our organization, more towards politics. There's budgets. There's all sorts of pressures institutionally that command their attention. And it goes back to what I said earlier, is like, oh, look how much I care, look how much I'm trying to do for you guys. And we're like, well, we don't realize that that's what you're doing because you care. We just see the results of it and you feel disconnected.
Yeah. Right?
But in their defense, that's their job. I mean, that's their role. And I've often said this quote, like, we work for the police department or the fire department. We don't work for the sergeant's department. We don't work for a lieutenant's or battalion commander's or a deputy chief or chief's department. We work for the police department or the fire department, and the most important people that we have in the organization are the people out there doing the work, risking their lives, and experiencing extreme situations because they have such a sense of purpose in it, right?
Yeah. I one of the things that I like about doing what we're doing here or going to classes or talking with other people in the industry is like we get to share, as long as you're willing to be vulnerable, and we can talk about that later. Oh, yeah. You get to share the good and the bad, and I'll share bad. It's been a handful of years now, 3 years ago, 3.5, 4 years ago, I did a very, very brief stint on day shift as the medical service officer for the organization I'm with. And it was administrative work. It was going to the meetings. It was writing the policy. It was advocating for the people at an administrative level to make their life easier. And I loved the work because I actually did think I was making a difference for the responders. And while I'll say I didn't quit, I went back to the line. I actually voluntarily demoted back to a fire engine as an engine lieutenant. And there was 2 reasons. One is the schedule being on shift was better for my family, and frankly, it's all I'd ever known. So the day I graduated high school, I had never done anything where I went to work for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. I didn't know what that was like, and I didn't like it. I think I could have got used to it, but I didn't like it. But what I didn't like the most was I felt detached from the crews. I felt detached from the people, and that's where I say sometimes I think I gave up or I quit, because what I didn't do is try to figure out how I could be with the people and feel connected while being in that administrative role. And I bring that up just to acknowledge that, one, it's a thing.
Oh, totally.
I know how it takes more effort from those roles than any other role in the agency to make that connection, because it's so easy to go sit in your office, shut the door, and this was like right after COVID, so everyone's still meeting on Zoom. I'd shut my door for 3 hours. I would just be on a Zoom meeting. Yeah. And next thing I know, the day's over, and I've talked to 2 people at work there.
Right. No, it is a thing because you're overwhelmed, and I don't think there's a lot of departments anywhere, including ours in our area, that are just so overfunded that we can compartmentalize different jobs.
Yeah.
I just came out of the similar role. It was a similar realization. It was training and hiring, and I was on policy committee and guild and stuff, and so it was 5 days a week, 2 days off, and I'm like, I agreed. Like, the shift work was better for me and my family, but I was totally disconnected from the people, even though I really believed in the things that we were doing in training, the wellness we were putting in our training, trying to hire and attract the right people. But it just, same thing, I voluntarily left early because it wasn't working for me. So I think that's okay, but I had to change my mindset. And we talk about this in our classes too, of how can you change your environment to your strengths and what's important to you. And what I had to do is also take control of my attitude. My attitude changed in the sense that I forced myself to realize, like, hey, thank God for them, that they're able to and willing to do the things that a lot of us aren't willing to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm not
Yeah.
willing to do that job anymore. I looked
No.
into it. I certainly pursued it. I got my education. I did all the things that I thought you had to do to be a good merit leader up in the organization. What I realized is my merit was with the people doing the job.
Yeah.
And so I went back, and I'm healthier, happier, and that type of thing. But I want to encourage people that we need administrators. We need people that are willing to do
Yeah.
administrative work because there's a lot of it to go around. And so thank God for those people that are willing to do it. And I just had to be honest with myself that that's not me.
Yeah.
That is
Pretty good example, and I think at the end of the day you got to decide within the organization you have to make the decision what can wait till tomorrow in exchange for making the connection. And I think where I'm at right now, at least at certain levels, we're striving in that direction.
Yeah.
There's no lack of acknowledgement at any rank in our organization that people matter. Words are words, actions is
Exactly.
where the rubber meets the road. And I think people are trying, and you're absolutely right. Like, someone has to be an administrator. And to be honest, in the next 10 years, it's probably not going to be me. But, someday it might be. And I want to make sure this conversation is in my head when I do that, because I don't. It's not always an intentional thing. It's a drift, and it just happens.
Yeah.
And how do you, when you're the chief, how do you not awkwardly slide into a conversation with the group doing the work? And it's possible,
Yep.
and people do it, and it is a sign of what I think is a really good leader. But it's going to take work, and frankly, I didn't put the work in a few years ago, but certainly acknowledge that if I were to ever go down that road again, that's a challenge I know I'm going to face head on.
Yeah.
From day one.
Well, that's the thing. It has to be self-motivated. I think you have to be, have a vision and a clear direction and a plan to do it, because, like you said, you have to be intentional about doing it, because you unintentionally will get thrown into so many other things that pull your attention. It has to be part of your leadership plan. And we talked several times about building trust and the foundation of trust, and it still baffles me that a lot of people, when you talk about building trust as a leader, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." I'm like, that should be a given, but we drift away from that because we unintentionally just forget to do it. And I've got some action items that I developed to be intentional at trust building, and I struggled with that at the beginning. Like, is this thing that I'm doing is intentionally to build someone's trust, and is that disingenuous because I'm doing it to build trust? Like it's not genuine. And what I came to learn is, if your motives are pure, it is not disingenuous. And I can look anybody in the eye right now and like, hey, I know what you're doing. And they can tell me that, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're trying to build trust with me. I'm like, you're damn right I am.
Yeah.
Because I care about you. This is important to me, and I do want you to trust me.
Yeah.
Because as an investigator, I did 4 years of child sex crimes, and we call that the dark ages of my career. But what I think where that comes from, and it's not just from me, it's from other people that have had similar experiences with people that they lost trust in, and it's that their motives weren't pure. Because one of the things that I had to admit about myself as a sex crime investigator is, in order to get access to their victims, they were masters at building trust.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, their motives were impure, and
Yeah.
that harms so much when you lose that trust. And so I had to kind of reconcile that. But I think it is okay, if your motives are pure, to do specific things in your day because you're trying to build trust, and to be open about that.
Yeah. I think being open is a huge key. And, I'm not afraid to talk with my crews about the fact that, hey, I have to trust you, but ultimately you have to trust me.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the most extreme circumstance, I'm going to be asking you to do something that is going to jeopardize your well-being in your life.
Yeah.
And what I have to have from you is the trust that I'm doing it with the best of intent, the best training, the best understanding of the situation,
Resources,
utilizing the best information I have,
Yep.
and we're going to go tackle this situation. And if the worst case were to happen, I want them and their family, because their family is going to be the one asking the questions, to trust that there was never any intent to put someone in a position. And everyone in our industry is going to say, well, I never intended to put somebody. But when you go back to actionable items, it's like, yeah, I do expect myself to stay up on the same training that my crews are expected to stay up on. I do want to put myself out there and learn stuff that I don't know. I do want to admit and lead by example to say I don't know when I don't know. Because what I don't want to do is walk around like I know everything until the time comes and it turns out that it's very obvious I didn't know.
Right.
And, you know, I've tried really hard on that note to instill a culture of it's okay to not know.
100%.
What's not okay is to stay silent about it. Yep. And it's not okay for someone to speak up about not knowing something and then be ridiculed for saying it. Because our industry, and I would say yours is probably the same. I'm going to make a stretch here, not knowing for sure. But when we started, I'll bet you that it was frowned upon if you didn't know something that you were expected to have already known through some sort of training. Sure. And if you were to ever say, like, well, I don't get that, boy, the old guys would have been all over you.
The salty dogs be on you.
Yep. Yeah. But we can't live in that culture.
No.
And allowing the idea of not knowing something to exist in your team, that builds trust.
Agreed. And to be honest about it, I mean, I've worked for leaders that will honestly tell me, like, hey, I know this, but I don't know anything about tactics, use of force stuff. That's not my thing. I rely on you for that. And to empower me with that actually made me more motivated to be better at my job, better at that. Yeah. But I had a lot of respect for that person telling me those things so that I knew, like, I got you. I know where you're coming from. I appreciate the honesty. You got it. And, you know, I'll do everything I can to download what I know onto you. But that leads me to one of the things I want to talk about with leadership. It's really hard for a lot of people in that scenario if they don't have the confidence in themselves to say, this is what I bring to the table. And maybe it's organizational, maybe it's administrative, maybe it's training, whatever it is. If you're building teams, especially in the environments we work in, is to have the courage as a leader to not only say that, but surround yourself by team members that are better than you at different parts of the job.
Yeah.
It's so important because a lot of times I have seen, and I've experienced the other side of that too, where they don't like that you know, they don't want to be exposed, so they will prevent you from either getting on the team, they will prevent you from being over here, they'll prevent you from the opportunities or whatever, because they're intimidated or they just don't like the fact that you know more than them.
Yeah.
And that's not what it's about. It's never what it's about.
No. And it starts with being comfortable with who you are. Yep. And I think that's hard when you're young and you're trying to make impressions. As you mature and you get a little bit older, look, I was not the best paramedic in my organization. I couldn't drive or pump a fire engine in the top 10% of my organization. I don't know, pick another skill. I probably wasn't the best at it. Yeah. I was not the best at any one skill in my organization when I promoted to lieutenant, and I sure as heck wasn't one of the best at any one particular skill when I promoted to battalion chief. That can be a scary concept when you think about it. And sometimes I look back and go, man, I wish I was I wish I was the best at this one thing, because, man, what could I offer? But what I was good at everything. I took everything serious. Mm-hmm. And as a battalion chief, I know who I was with and surrounded by in the organization that was really good at things that I wasn't.
Yeah. And
I'm okay saying, one of the first engine lieutenants I had, well, I've been super blessed as a battalion chief, but both engine lieutenants I got right out of the gate were tenured guys who had a really solid understanding of their job. And I was very frank with them that my ability to make it as a battalion chief would essentially go as they go. I was either going to be successful based on them being successful, or I was going to fail based on them failing.
Yeah.
Because, and I was very open with them, like, there's going to be times I need you as much as you need me. And since one has moved on and is still a lieutenant within our organization, but in a different shift, and I've gotten a new one. But I have that rapport with those guys, and I'm not hiding anything.
Yeah.
We go to the drill ground. You want to talk about forcible entry? Yep, I could force the door. But there's 3 other people on my shift that would be far better at teaching you how to force a door than me.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah.
But I'm not the best.
He's on his role. She's on her role.
But you want to talk about managing a scene and incident command roles, right, and accountability and strategic decision making. I'd love to sit down and mentor people on that, because I feel like that's my strength in the team.
And that's your role.
Yeah.
Yeah, I coach football. I think it was one of the first years. I'm not coaching football now. It's time for me to move on and focus on the mission. But loved coaching football. I started right after I got off the TAC team, and I felt like a guy with no mission, right? No team.
Mm-hmm.
And suddenly, they needed help. I get in there, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. This is about getting guys to work together, although younger, in a high-stress, fast-paced environment. I was like, I think I know something about this. So my specialty in coaching and training for almost 30 years now has been motor programs. How do we relate those motor programs, build those Rolodex of motor programs, and then access them in high-stress environments and mental processing and the things that we do to make us successful, mostly revolving around tactics and firearms. And so I started using that stuff. But one of the things you got to realize is that every year we start the football training process sometimes as early as January.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to plan for the season. We're trying to get our schematics down, our offense and our defense. And so we're having these coaches meetings. So the first coach meeting I have every year was, here's what I provide, as much as what you do. I provide the administrative outlook. I provide, what the goals are. I'm trying to figure out, is our training developing the motor programs, and are they translated that into actual gameplay, and then are they working as one team? That's what I provide. And I had offensive coordinators, defensive coordinators, line guys, quarterback, and receiver coaches, and all these guys were better at their jobs than I. They know way more about football in that role than I ever will.
Yeah.
And I tell them that, own your role.
Yeah.
This is yours. Run with it. If anything, I have an overriding vote just because I know where we need to go or what the rules are within the league or whatever. But we have that discussion every year, and every year I get to watch back or step back a little bit and watch them run. And I'll be on the sidelines saying, we need this for the next turnover, we need this for whatever we need. But I let those guys decide, how are you going to run that? This is your role, and you see them thrive. You see them love it. The kids respond to it. So I think it's really important as a leader you step back and do that. And if you don't mind, one of the things I want to talk about was because of this administrative role versus this ground troops role, for lack of a better term. I often see, at least in our area, because I got a lot of friends in the area, and we know each other pretty well, is how the departments are similar and different. But one of the things I see as a theme is that there's often this split, this us versus them, right? You get the administrators versus people that are doing the work, and sometimes that split it creates a divide, and it keeps growing and growing and growing. And a lot of times, what the people doing the work get frustrated with the leadership. They're not getting what they want from the top down. They're hearing about the policy decisions. They're hearing about new legislation, new rules, or what the cities or counties are shoving down their throats, and the officers get frustrated. And I think what happens is we expect this leadership from the top down, and what we're getting is administrated from the top down.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to really frustrate me because, as I studied leadership, I got a master's degree with law enforcement public safety leadership. We started doing a deep dive into it, and it's frustrating. You're like, this is how it should be done. It's so obvious to you, but they don't have the time or the focus for it.
Yeah.
And then what I realized is, in my particular case, is we work for a bottom-up organization.
Yeah.
And it's in terms of leadership. We lead from the bottom up. And then it suddenly dawned on me, that is awesome. That is a great opportunity for guys like me and share the same passion, because we're not restricted in our leadership from the top down. Instead of thinking, I need this leadership from the top down. Appreciate what they do. They've got their own focus. We can lead from the bottom up. And when we talk about servant leadership and 360-degree leadership means, I'm not only leading those below my rank, I can also lead above my rank and the people around me, and I can also be led by them in certain scenarios. And so what you start realizing is you have these opportunities to have these discussions, create this problem, and maybe you need a new piece of equipment, maybe you need new tactics, like you were talking about earlier, of empowering your guys to say, hey, we want to change this. Okay, let's change this. And I'll tell you what, if I've done the research on a project, let's say, and this is maybe a new piece of equipment, for example. We just went through a massive project like that. It was actually a 3-year commitment for me to work with administratively what their needs were, what their budget was, and what we need to keep up with industry standards, right? And so eventually we get this stuff, but my point is the only thing I really ever got, and in a lot of these projects from above me was, hey, thanks for doing that work. Because they didn't have the time or the energy or maybe the expertise. Yeah. And so I realized this bottom-up concept, embrace the heck out of it because you have a tremendous ability to impact the people around you, keep up with best standards, new equipment, all that stuff. Because they'll admit they're not out there using it. So if you're saying this is what's best, then we'll work with you and figure out how to get it done. You just have to work in their guidelines, right? Because they have policy and they have budgets and all that stuff. But what a tremendous opportunity to practice leadership in our roles from the bottom up. And I want people to really realize that, change their attitude about it, embrace the heck out of that, and enjoy it.
One of the things I preach with my crew is like, I don't want you to bring me a problem unless you have a solution.
Agreed.
There's certain problems, obviously, that administratively you got to bring to me, whether you have a solution or not, because your solution problem, may or may not be right, and I'm going to have to do what I have to do because that's the policy, that's the procedure, that's the administrative role. But if you're having a problem completing a task because we don't have the piece of equipment, it's not in the right place, or it's on the wrong unit, what I want you to do is bring me the problem with a solution. And then I can help you with the solution from there. If it's perfect, then we're going to move forward with it. If we need to retool or look at certain things, or hey, this is going to be problematic because of a policy, then we can talk about it. And for a while, I was a union president, and if you want to catch most squeaky wheels, get on a union leadership board, and you'll get almost every squeaky wheel in an organization. And I used to tell everyone in the organization, hey, my job isn't to come up with a solution for every single problem. My job is to facilitate solutions if there's a problem. So what I don't want is you to show up to a meeting and be like, well, we're constantly out of coffee, and we want you to fix that. Well, if we need to fix why we're always out of coffee, then bring me a potential solution. But a lot of kind of what we're talking about here is promoted by, as a supervisor, starting from yes. And I feel like this has been moderately relevant lately in my life, and so I don't know if it's a recency bias to talk about it or what, but it spurred this desire to do a little bit of reading and more research on the idea of when someone brings you an idea, there's two types of people. There's one person who's like, I really like the idea, let's dig into it and figure out if we can make it happen. And then the other person is like, I like your idea, but it ain't going to happen. And it's unclear to me that if the reason that we start from no is because we don't have capacity to work on the project, or it seems too hard, it's out of our comfort zone. I don't know.
Or it's the way we've always done it.
We do it this way, so no, we're not going to change something.
Right.
And one of the things that I like to try to strive and do as a supervisor is if someone brings something to me, or you want a day off, or you have this problem in your life you're trying to solve and work is in the way, I want to sit down with you and figure out how we can get to the yes on that. How can we help you? It goes back to people. It takes effort sometimes. It takes listening. It takes creative thinking. It takes finding the edges of policy where black meets gray. and if it's for the right reason, for the right people, operating in the gray is not always the wrong thing to do. We had an assistant chief years ago who crushed the people thing. I mean, he crushed taking care of the people to the extent where it really opened the door with problems on enforcing policy because we spent too much time in the gray and too much precedent setting. But he was really good at people and taking care of them. And I think, as you've experienced as a leader, it's like as you go through your life, you work for different supervisors, you play for different coaches, and you take those little nuggets with you. Like, I like that. Otherwise, that person was just a giant pain. But that thing that they did was really good, or that coach did this thing really well. I want to carry that with me, and really, that's something I took from that operations chief early on in my career. Is like, that guy legitimately cares about people, so much so that he binds himself up to take care of them, and that isn't necessarily the right answer.
Right, too far.
But it's starting from yes, and how do we get there? And the one thing that validated that for me. A quick little story is like this week I was teaching this class for youth in the community, and one of the things I was doing was giving a tour of the fire station, and one of the guys I supervised was trying to get out of work and head home from shift, and he happened to get caught up in the group of 40 some odd high school kids, and the teacher of the group, or the lead organizer of the group, had been asking participants throughout the day that we're teaching, what would your high school self tell yourself now, or what would your self now tell your high school self?
Yep. Which I knew
there's a lot of good nuggets, but she threw a curveball and asked this guy, threw him on the spot right in front of everybody and me, which was uncomfortable because I don't like a lot of praise. But she said, what makes James a good leader? And he's like, he listens.
Yeah. When
I come to his office and I sit down, I know that we might not always leave with the exact result that I wanted when I went in, but I know that he cared enough to hear me out and try to help me find common ground to a solution we could all live with. And, man, I'll do that every day.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I get to the end of the day, I haven't gotten anything done. It's like,
yes, you have.
Yeah, another guy coming in, another person coming in, you want to talk, and that goes back to what can wait till tomorrow, right? And a lot of times the stuff on the computer can wait till tomorrow,
right?
So yeah,
yep. When you talk about starting from yes, the other thing that came to my mind is I want to be open for people when they have new suggestions, new ideas, or problems they want to face, but I also want to empower them to bring me solutions, as opposed to me just stuffing it to them, right?
Yeah. Well, we don't always have the capacity to come up with the solutions.
No. And I'll tell you, as a union guy, president guy too, for a long time, we dealt with a lot of people that had a lot of issues for whatever reason. If it was a conflict with the contract, or working conditions, whatever, or conflicts with each other. I can't tell you how many times someone would come to me and say, I have this conflict with this other supervisor or something else. And what I learned to say right off the bat was, well, how did it go when you talked to them about that? And they almost always were like, well, I haven't. I'm just pissed at them, And I'd be like, you have to understand my rule. You can't come to me until you've tried to work it out yourself.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, I would check back in with that person a week later, oh, we worked it out. It's just misunderstanding. Yeah. It's okay to empower you to have your own conversations with people, not for me to fix it. And there was a couple times where this was a really tough dynamic. We couldn't resolve it, and so I did step in, facilitate some conversations, and get those things going. And one particular moment, I remember, this particular person was having a hard time really explaining it, but I knew they were good at writing, very good reports and everything. I said, how do you feel about writing them a letter, and we'll sit down and we'll have them read the letter and we'll talk about it. Oh, that's a perfect idea. Man, that cleared up so much, and there was so much strife between the two of them for years. And it's like, well, we just got to find a way to empower them to make their own solutions, as opposed to taking on their problems or just immediately solving it.
We're leaders, not babysitters. I mean, sometimes it feels like we're babysitters, but we're leaders. We're all adults, and we should all be able to do adult things, regardless of what your rank is. It's funny when we talk about starting from yes. It reminds me of this thing that I say from time to time, and I don't know if I read it somewhere. Someone's probably said it before me, but having an open door doesn't mean you have an open ear. A lot of people say they have an open door, but unless you have an open ear, your door doesn't mean anything.
Right.
And I say that to myself a lot to remind myself, my door is open and people come in and they're talking. I need to be listening.
Yes.
Because otherwise it's just a waste of their time and it's a waste of my time.
And sometimes it's hard to do because you got a lot on your plate, right? And you're like,
oh
man, do I have time for this? No, shut it down, put it away. Yep, I got to connect this. And in the leadership stuff I've built, for me, that's called a vault moment. I have to recognize this is a vault moment right? This is a moment where I can put this in the vault to build trust with them,
Yeah.
to build that relationship. Like, it's not a waste of my time.
Yeah.
Even though what I think they're dealing with is like, really, that's your stress. Well, that's great. I wish that was the biggest stress I had in my life.
Yeah.
But it's relative, and you got to get down with them and say, yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, use that vault moment. Use that as a moment to put more trust in the vault.
Yeah. Something that I think when we talk about going back to building trust, and it's never intentional, I don't think, from people, and I'm not even going to sit here and say that I'm perfect at it, because I'm far from perfect at any of this stuff. I just like talking about it, and I like trying to be as good as I can. And we get so many people coming in and out wanting to talk that a lot of times we make agreements that we're going to do something to help that person. And just sitting here, I'm trying to think of how many times I've done that and let somebody down by not doing the thing I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
I forget. It's never intentional.
Sure.
And we all are victim of it at different levels. Like we've been on both sides of it as leaders. We've been on the side of like, you said you were going to, and you didn't. And I just thinking yesterday, I was talking with a guy who's wanting to iron out something, and he has a solution, and it really is going to result in the need for me to talk with a peer of mine, another battalion chief, and it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
But what I can't do is forget to go have that conversation, because I told him, hey, hold off on the email. I think this is going to be better received in a conversation between me and that person. And again, it's not that it's no one's getting fired or written up or gonna lose a job. It's a simple problem, but it's a problem that needs to be communicated.
Sure.
And
that stuff comes up.
I can't forget to do that, because that trust is just going to get chipped away.
Yeah.
And just like that, having that conversation and then thinking about it all is like, I know I couldn't sit here and give you an exact example, because we do listen and hear a lot of things.
Yeah.
I know I've let someone down.
Sure.
But the idea is to try to negate that as much as we can. So we're
Agreed.
a person of our word. We do what we say we're going to do.
And that builds trust. And I've been the same way too, and I've been on both sides of that. And I think one of the things I want to let myself, you, other leaders know is to give yourself the grace to recognize that you've done that and go freaking apologize.
Yeah.
Confront it. I let you down. I totally forgot about that. I'm sorry. I think that's the best thing you could do in the environment, because I see a lot of people that are like, well, we'll cover it up, or I didn't have time for that, or like, well, they're wrong, I'm right. And I'm like, just apologize.
Yeah, or they won't notice. They won't notice.
Right, yeah.
I forgot.
Well, they haven't said anything, so I just won't bring it up.
Yeah.
But yeah, apologize. I mean, I think that builds so much trust to recognize, like, hey, dude, I had this going on. I absolutely forgot about our follow-up, and I'm sorry. Let's pick that back up, so they don't think that you forgot about them. You don't think that you don't care.
Yeah,
right?
Sort of like being authentic.
Oh yeah, just like you're talking about.
Yeah.
Be authentic.
You got to be who you are. Like, we're people. People mess up, and there's no perfect person. I can't agree more. Yeah, it's just acknowledging, like, and I can't think of those times where it's like, hey, did you? And you're like, oh, dude, I let you down. I'm so sorry. What I am doing is heading straight to my computer to do it right now. Yeah. I appreciate you reminding me, and I apologize. It's happening right this second before I forget again. Yeah. And then make it that priority and get it done for them. But yeah.
I don't know if we got too much more to talk about on foundations for this podcast series. We got a whole bunch of list of stuff we want to talk about, but I want to put a nugget in there about, as a leader, making sure that you and your team understand and define their purpose for the job. And the reason I say that is because what we do, admittedly, is extreme at times. We see, witness, or insert ourselves into trauma, into extreme scenarios, right? And it becomes normal for us, but the outside looking in, as I get older, I realize a lot of people look at us like, you're nuts.
Yeah.
You do what? Yeah, that's something normal for me. But because we have this sense of purpose in what we do, it certainly helps us fight off the trauma, the experiences, the things that we go through. But being authentic is, like you mentioned, helping people understand what your purpose is, being open, honest, and authentic about that, and inspiring them to have their purpose, even if it's not the same, so that we go into this job having a sense of purpose in what we do that's bigger than ourselves.
Yeah.
Because it really is, and thank God for those of us that are willing to do it. because I watch people on my crew do stuff all the time, and I'm just like, thank God for these people.
Yeah.
That they're willing to solve this problem. They're willing to go into the violence. They're willing to go insert themselves into trauma. Thank God for them, but do they have the sense of purpose? Because without that sense of purpose, I've seen people start really burning out and focus on that leadership that they don't have or the administrative stuff. Like, it doesn't matter. You have a greater sense of purpose than just you.
Yeah, I like to just have the conversation with people. Simple. Why? Why are you here? Because the benefits are decent.
Yeah.
The retirement's good. We can raise a family on the paycheck that we get, and we can take care of everybody in the family. But the reality of it is, the older I get, the longer I've been in it, the more I'm realized, and I have realized, it's just a job.
Yep. This
job, while it is extreme and it's not for everyone, and I appreciate the people who are thankful for the work that we put in, and I respect that. If you don't have a purpose, this is going to become a regular 9 to 5, Monday through Friday gig that is just a grind, and it's going to be a grind like nothing else that you've ever done in your life, because you're gonna start having no value in why we're sitting here right now after not sleeping.
We both worked last night.
Yeah, you're not going to have any value in why you have to spend time going to therapy for other people's problems that you were a part of. You're not going to have value in you lose the idea that this is a privilege. And so I try to have that conversation with my folks, and I try to phrase this as this career as a privilege, that we're privileged to be able to do the work that we do, to be able to insert ourselves into people's lives and try to make a difference. And I'm real. I'm also real with them, like, especially the new folks that think that, like, we fix all of the problems. We don't. I feel like there's days where we lose more than we win. But if you have the purpose and understand it's a privilege to be there with those people, even when we lose, you won't lose the passion or the why for what we're doing here. And we get really wrapped up in a lot of the ancillary components of the business that we carry out. And sometimes I think we drift from why did we ever even get here to begin with?
Yep, and we start worrying about all the little things that are out of our control.
Yeah.
And we start obsessing and getting pissed about them or whatever. And I see that from time to time. And I'll be honest, in my career, I went downhill pretty bad into kind of that phase, like a lot of people do. And went through my diagnosis, recovered it, and eventually, as I started learning about this, incessantly diving into this wellness component and building the 43rd Mission wellness was, I was just obsessed about trying to figure this out, and then I started unlocking it, and I started getting better. And I recovered from that. And so now I'm facing the end of my career, and I might even go longer, loving my job again.
Yeah.
Absolutely loving it, on fire. I'm back. I'm back on patrol where I believe I was built to be. And that's why I want to say that purpose. I had to go back to that purpose and really realize, let go of the things that are out of my control, and what is it that I really do. And, we have a saying on our crew that is on our briefing board every day. It's, the monitor that we bring up for briefing every day, picture of our crew, and on the bottom it says, love what you do and who you do it with. Because you know what? This is one of the best jobs on planet Earth. It has ruined me for anything else. It's okay to love what you do. It's okay to be good at what you do, even though you may disagree with who you do it for at times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because that's not my purpose. So love what you do and love who you do it with, because that's how you build teams, right? You go to work every day with that attitude, I'm telling you, it changes everything.
Yeah, we're going there for the public. It doesn't matter it matters who's leading us, and it really does shape and put the organization on a trajectory that is either going to be good or bad, and those administrative roles are important. At the end of the day, at the root of it all, we're there for the public. And if you can remember that, all those other little things that you want to grind your axe about don't matter. We, similar to you, when I took over this crew, every class you go to on leadership says, you need to write your expectations down, and you need to give them. It can't be 3 pages long. It needs to be somewhat concise, but they need to be able to understand them. And, at the bottom, I took the concise piece to heart and said, there's 10 things here. It's a half sheet of paper.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we can boil it down to, we're going to take care of ourselves. We're going to take care of the public. and we're going to take care of each other.
Yep.
And if you can do those three things, there's not a single expectation on that sheet that you missed.
Right.
And that really boils down our purpose. Why are we here? We're here for the public. We're here for each other. We're here to take care of ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the end of the day, that's what we got to do.
Yeah. 100%. And that's why we got in the business to do it. I get my expectations usually every quarter. If I've changed quarter or changed crews, if not, then we just roll with it. But yeah, my number one expectation is just do the right thing.
Yeah.
Do the right thing.
Yeah.
And if it conflicts with policy law, well, then that's where I can help you. But bottom line is we're out there trying to do the right thing for ourselves, for the people around us, for the public. We're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah. We'll have policy binders that are, as thick as the Webster Dictionary, and 80% of the problems that we respond to, there isn't a policy that you could apply to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Most of our policies, I don't know if we adopted Lexapol, which has been it's been a process. But a lot of that stuff it reads like, here's a guy that screwed up on this. Here's another person that screwed up on this. Like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. Every policy, you're like, somebody created the policy. We joke around, like, where does policy come from? Night shift, right? Because we play in the dark.
Oh, yeah, every policy has a name and picture. Yeah, I mean, I feel bad for our deputy chief because he's really taken the brunt of our transition to Lexapol, which has been years in the making, but we're finally actually trying to utilize Lexapol for what it was made for. And
much work. It's so much work.
Yeah, I mean, when you talk about trying to maintain connections with the people that you lead and trying to wade through Lexapol, and you start talking about all the administrative duties that take away from your ability to be with folks, like, you got to balance that. And the reality of it is like, hey, we've survived the last 15 years without a policy on X. If you need to take an hour to connect with some of the folks that work here, we'll survive 24 more hours without that policy. Right. It's not ideal, but here we are, and we're making change. And I'm big on incremental change because I think sometimes as leaders we think we're gonna spin the boat in 180 degrees and head the other way, and it's not gonna happen.
Government.
You got to take each little piece as a win and accept the fact that over 10 years, we might turn that boat around, or we might shift gears into that other thing, but we're not going to change anything dramatically in a small amount of time.
No.
So.
And we've talked about the irony of government work. It's designed to move slow, and then we get pissed that it moves slow.
Yeah, I'm there right now. Actually, 100%. But then, this conversation today is a great example. Like, I'm over it. I'm done grinding my axe on it.
Yeah.
And I know how I'm going to address it. I know what I want to do moving forward. But it's not going to get in the way of me doing my job. It's not going to get in the way of me leading people and taking care of the mission. It is what it is. It's an ancillary component to the work that we've been asked to do. So we can't get hung up on it.
Well, I'm glad we got time to talk about purpose, because I think it's a big deal for a leader to remind or inspire people their purpose. And the purpose doesn't have to be all exactly the same. But I'm willing to bet that most of us have a real similar one. And why we get into this job.
Yeah.
And caring about people is enough to know what is their purpose, or inspire them to remember their purpose when times get tough. Because I'll tell you, part of the behind or the other side series is the other side of police work, the other side of fire work, the other side of being a first responder, but the other side of the badge that we hold. Right? What is it like? What do we carry? And why are we doing it? And it's going to take, I think, guys like you and me getting real about that.
Yeah.
To change the culture, to have a positive impact around us, like you're saying, little by little.
Yeah.
Little by little. Because I'll tell you, it's different now than it was when I got into this business.
Yeah.
We have wellness stuff. We have peer support stuff. We have people focus more on the people than in the past. In the past, it was like, this is the way we do it. We're always going to do it that way. You got to earn yourself. You weren't really a team member in the beginning. You were a recruit.
Yeah.
And you were dirt, and so you earned it, right?
Yeah.
And we just can't afford to do that anymore.
Yeah, our organizations are much more welcoming today than they were 10, 15, 20 years ago, for sure. But that's important, because the reality is when they come back from the academy, they're a part of your team, whether you like it or not.
Yep.
They're there doing their job, and you have to figure out how to wrap them into the fold. When I think about purpose, I think back to, because I'm a Simon Sinek fan, and he has a book that's Find Your Why, and he does a TED Talk on it. If you don't like to read, I'm not a huge reader, but it is one of the few books that I have really invested in spending a lot of time in. And that really is what it boils down to. What's your purpose? What's your why? Why are you here doing this? And until you know what that is, it's really hard to lead people.
Yeah.
Because you don't even know who you are and what you're doing or why you're doing it.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yep, you see that too. Well, is there anything we haven't talked about that we want to talk about today? I'm looking through the notes of stuff that we've talked about. I've probably got pages of stuff that you and I have talked about and stuff we want to go over. But anything for kind of our foundational talk today of what you want to talk about?
No, I mean, I think we've covered a lot of stuff, and for me, it's hard for me to even start getting to other things without spending a lot of time emphasizing people and trust and like. When you have that, your team can do amazing things. That's without any other attribute or value as a leader. If you just took those two things and figured out how you can employ them in your day-to-day actions, you're going to elevate.
Oh, 100%. And you're gonna really inspire the people around you.
Yeah. I'd like to think that all the people that come to work with me and have to put up with my antics are like passionate about being there and happy to be there and are happy team members. And I think it's because I would hope they know that I genuinely care about them. And I hope my actions have shown that.
Yeah, I hope so too. And it's okay to remind them. A lot of times we do it every day. We have a list of our favorite things on that same briefing screen. Our favorite things about the job. It's okay to remind yourself or your crew that this is still an awesome job. You still get to do this stuff. I know it's tough. I know it weighs on us, but you have a reason for being here. You have a purpose.
Yep.
It is the greatest job. We have the greatest jobs on the planet. I'm fully convinced of that. Never will be otherwise.
100%.
But it does take a toll.
Yeah.
And so we have to be honest about that. Well, let me ask you one more question.
Yeah.
What advice would you give for a new first responder or even a seasoned one regarding anything topic today or anything about wellness or just getting into the job?
Boy, I feel like there's so much to tell them. I think what's been resonating with me for the last probably few years, especially since I went through going to the day shift thing and then really reconciling the fact that I would be just as happy being an engine lieutenant for 20 more years and retiring there, is this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And the 24-year-old self thought it was a sprint. And I wouldn't change anything I've done. Don't get me wrong. I don't have any regrets. I value every step of the way. I'm very happy where I'm at right now in my career. I think there's benefits to where I'm at in my career right now. I think that there's cons for where I'm at in my career right now. But at the end of the day, if you're going to do this for 30 years, pace yourself.
Yeah.
Pace yourself.
Great advice.
You can't work 500, 600, 700 hours of overtime for the first decade of your career and expect to make it 20 more years. It's just not healthy for you. It's not healthy for your family. Financially, you might be providing things for your family and your children that you never thought were possible. They don't care because what you were was absent. And it's a marathon.
Yeah.
It's a marathon. And I think that's the easiest way to sum it up. That goes for how fast do you want to promote. That goes for how happy are you in the organization that you're in, and are you willing to start over in an organization that makes you happy? Because that didn't happen in our generation. If you got hired,
you never left.
When I got hired, I would have told you that, yep, I owe the organization I work for, I owe them 30 years of my time for taking a chance on me. That's not how it has to be. That's how hopefully we can foster organizations where people want to stay for 30 years. But if you're getting burned out and you're going through the grind and you're not happy, but the purpose is still the same, there might be an organization that can fulfill the other pieces of that puzzle. And part of that's a marathon. You got to be willing to start over. I got a guy on my crew right now that's been in 3 agencies in 15 years, call it 15 years. He started over 2 times.
Wow.
And he's happy to do it. I'd be willing to bet he's might be happier than he's ever been where he's at right now. And if he would have stayed in those other organizations, he'd probably hold rank. He'd probably be influencing the new generation coming in those organizations. But he recognized, like, this is a marathon, and if it's meant to be that I'll be a lieutenant someday, I can be a BC someday if it's meant to be. I put the work into it. But I think for me, the realization the last few years is, like, some of it's probably just getting older and more mature, but it's a marathon.
Yeah.
Not a sprint.
Well, yeah, and because there's always things you can volunteer for,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's always specialty work. There's always other things that the department needs. And if you're one of those guys that wants to step up or gals that wants to step up and do those things, then what happens is you build a reputation for saying yes, right? Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, I'll take that.
Yeah.
And before long, you're so overcommitted that, yeah, you get burnt out on the job because you're trying to help with everything that you can.
Yeah. Or you can't do all of those things well. Because
Yeah.
it's too much. And, yep, we all have those guys, and I can think of the ones that in my organization, and frankly, maybe I was one of them early in my career that didn't say no enough.
Yeah.
But you know, there's value in doing all of those things, but just like everything in life, with every action, there's a reaction. And what the reaction is on the backside is what we got to be thinking about if you're going to do this for 30 years. And there's time to do all of those things if you really think about the fact that you're going to be there for 30 years.
Right.
You don't have to do it all in the first 7 or 5. You
Agreed.
know?
No, I was guilty of that same thing.
Yeah.
It was exciting. I loved it, but I don't necessarily regret it. But looking back, I think I would give very similar advice. Like, just slow down, enjoy, become a master of the things that you're in control of, as opposed to a jack of all trades and master of none.
Yeah, we have guys in our organization that I'm like, man, you'd be a great engine officer. But they're killer driver operators, and they're really good firefighters, and they're happy doing it. And, 5-6 years ago, I'd be like, God, what a waste. You're so good at your job. What you could provide the people. And as I get older, I've realized, like, no, you're actually in the perfect spot.
Yep.
Because you're actually still providing all of that to the people. And you're doing what you love.
Yep.
And if we don't have you being really good at your role, going back to roles, then how good are we?
Right.
We actually need you. We need those people.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to acknowledge the value that they hold in our organizations. Because without them, the work that you and I do doesn't really matter.
No, it'll fall apart.
Yeah, it's like if you got a football team and no quarterback, you don't have a football team. So.
No, it's so true, and I see that a lot too. And I think we make the mistake of that in ourselves and other people. Like, you're so great at this job, you should promote, because we assume that makes them a great leader. We assume that makes them good in that role, but that's not the role they're in.
Yeah, I saw that on our notes, like the Peter principle, which I love to talk about, and I like to joke about it. And like some of the guys I work with will razz each other about being Peter principle candidates or whatever, as a joke, but it's real.
It is.
And having taken a promotional exam on a book that was built around the idea of the Peter principle, I often found irony in realizing some of the decisions that were made after those exams. Like, we literally just read a book about this. But, and that's not knocking any of the people that I work with now. It's actually, we're so much better today than we were 10, 12 years ago at promotional exams and finding the right people for the job.
Good.
I really think we found our way. It's been a long road, and it's taken a lot of looking at ourselves in the mirror and
being willing to step out of the norm, what you've always done.
Yeah, being uncomfortable.
Yep.
Being willing to try something. Our last promotional exam, we did basically a review of each candidate's work product of the last 2.5 years or so. And it was an uncomfortable piece of the process for those that were involved, either as the candidates being evaluated or the evaluators. And you know what? At the end of it, we got to be very real and say, like, I didn't like this, I like this. Can we fit this into the process in a different place where it matters a little bit less on the overall score, but we still valued the conversation that came from it.
Yeah.
And so finding the right place to fit those things, but it comes back to our leaders being willing to say, I was wrong, or that didn't go the way I thought it would go, or there's a better way to do something, and having that humility to have those conversations and normalizing after action reviews and those types of things. So we could go on forever.
Yeah, we could go on forever. I think that's a good one for the next one too, is building teams.
Yeah.
How do you building teams? How do you get the right people, especially within the processes that we have to work in government, in civil service? Like, how do we build this to get the right people in the right places so we can use those strengths and build those teams? I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
Let's dive into that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for being with us today.
Yeah.
Thanks for supporting 43rd Mission. Thanks for supporting the podcast, The Other Side. Just keep in mind the reason we're doing this is to bring tools to you that we've learned, people that I've learned from. James is certainly one of those people. And how do we become better at our jobs? How do we be a light to the people around us? So thanks for joining in. Thanks for your support. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on YouTube. We really appreciate your support, helping try to grow this channel and bring these things, real concepts in first responder or high-stress environments. Thanks again, and take care.
Thanks for joining us. If you could like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and share this video with others, we would so appreciate your support in growing our channel. And we'll see you next time.